Hey y'all, welcome to the Borcherding Index, the most comprehensive, unnecessary, and overly complicated rating system in fantasy football. Given my name because I created it. So it's basically a rating system for fantasy teams to figure out how they're doing, and it takes into account three different things: your win percentage, your domination factor, and your strength of score. The latter two we'll get to here a little bit later. Just looking at the index rating screen, so you'll see the current rankings for the current week. So this is whatever the current week is. It's not a running total, so it's not an average or a total for the season. It's just the most recent week. If you would like to see the average for the whole season, that's over here at the bottom, as well as all the weekly categories. You'll notice that this is for week 5, so if you're looking at this later, that's why it looks like it's back in time, because it literally is back in time. So what data am I getting? So I'm recording the team's wins, and you'll see over here a per game average. So this is essentially the team's win percentage. Okay. Underneath that, you'll see I recorded the points for, so the points that a team is scoring. And if you're interested in how does your points per game compare to others, you'll notice that I have a blue-red rating system. So blue, the darker blue it is, the higher the value is. The darker red it is, the lower it is. And the whiter it is, or the lighter, then it is closer to the average. So you can see that Jack's My Dad is averaging 119.6. And the lowest here, Kingdom Revved Up, is 62.2, and then you have a bunch of things in between. So if you want to know how am I compared to the other teams, that's what to look for there. The volatility rating is basically how much more or less than your average could you expect a team to score. So a team with a high volatility, right, so here Duralius and Associates, means that you can expect that they might exceed their average by 31 points, which is quite a lot, but they also might go under their average by 31 points. This number will get more accurate as the season goes on, as it's a running tally. But for right now, you can kind of get an idea of what teams are more volatile than others. What teams you're going to really have to make sure to score a lot against because they score a lot of points, and they may score even higher than that, or possibly lower than that too. So it's just something to kind of think about when you're looking at the teams you're playing each week. And then lastly, points against. So points against is literally just how many points are scored against you. Again, that's added up an average per week. And you can see those over here. Again, blue means you have a lot of points scored against you. Red means not very many. And while you would think, well, I don't want very many points scored against me, that is true, but it also is not particularly impressive if you win then. So if you don't have very many points scored against you and you win a lot of games, that's not as impressive as if you have a lot of points scored against you and you win a lot of games. This isn't like basketball or football where you have a defense to try to stop the other team. You can't stop the other team you're playing against. So it's kind of a strength of schedule sort of thing. So the Flash has the weakest schedule. They've had teams score not very many points against them. And Team Win has had the most points scored against them, so they've had the hardest schedule. So that explains why the Flash has a little bit, maybe an inflated total, or at least the index thinks so. And it also explains why Win has a depreciated win total, or at least, again, the index thinks so. So the two things that are unique to this system are domination factor and strength of score. So domination factor is how many teams would you have beaten each week. So it's on a scale of 19. Each week a team is given a score based off of how many points they scored. So the team that scored the most points each week gets 19. Team that scored the second most gets 18, and so on and so forth, all the way down to the lowest, we get 0. That then is then put into the formula and used in the index calculation for that percentage. So you can see a team that has a higher domination factor will beat, on average, more teams each week. So Jack's My Dad averages 17.5 points, which is roughly around 17 or so teams beaten each week, 17 to 18. So that means almost every week he beats almost every team, whereas the Kingdom Revved Up each week will beat about 1.5 teams, so somewhere between 1 and 2 teams. Just kind of gives you an idea of how are you doing against the entire league on a weekly basis. And then lastly, strength of score is basically a combination of the points you score and the points your opponent scores. So if you score a lot of points and your opponent doesn't, this score will be lower unless you score a lot more points, because then it's like, well, who cares how many points the other team is scoring? If I'm just outscoring everybody, who cares? But likewise, if you're getting outscored by a ton just because you have bad luck each week, but you don't score any points, that's not particularly impressive. But if you do both, that is very impressive, even if it's in a losing cause. So you can see teams with bad records here, like Team Win. No, that was not the one I was thinking of. Yeah, Duralius and Associates, or Team Win. 5.4 is a little bit above average. And that's because not only are they getting points scored against them, they're scoring points, but they're getting points scored against them too, a little bit higher than that even is Huhut. So that helps explain where that's coming from. Again, you can see like a team like a Flash, that's why the index is lower on them, is because that score is not particularly high. So kind of walks you through the metric. When you put all those things together, it gives you your rating system, 100 being the best possible team that could ever be, 0 being the worst possible team that could ever be. These scores will obviously change, and as the season goes on, the win percentages will level out a little bit better. So this will only get better as it goes on and more accurate, hence why we're not unveiling it here until later in the season. So hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a great week and a terrific season. Thanks, y'all.